program. I am your host, Phatman.
And I'm Littleboy.
And this is our weekly Netcast podcast for
September 11th, 2012.
Oh my God, 11 years ago today.
I know.
You know, unbelievable. I remember that day like it was yesterday.
It doesn't seem like it was 11 years ago.
No, it seems like it seems like a couple years ago. It really doesn't seem like that long ago.
What do you think about? I haven't heard it for a while. A few years ago, they were talking about making it actually a national holiday.
No. Day of mourning, not a holiday.
Right.
Holiday stands for something completely different.
Well, you got Memorial Day. That's a holiday.
Well, yeah, but of course you don't have it's not Pearl Harbor Day,
right,
not
exactly,
a holiday.
Exactly.
And just so many people died there. I mean,
no, I know.
You know, but no, not a holiday.
Yeah, I don't think we should make it a holiday
yes.
either. I don't think we should make it a holiday, and it is a day of remembrance right now, and that's what it is. But I don't think it should be a holiday as well. You know?
What?
I mean, you don't want to give everybody a day off of work and stuff, kind of celebrating
it. I mean, because that's what the people
then
who
you let
hate us.
Then you let the terrorists win.
Well, they celebrate it. You tell me there's not parties going on in some of those countries.
I'm sure there are some.
Yeah, so I wouldn't celebrate it. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Little boy, you know what? I normally ask you how your week was.
Mm-hmm.
But I know how your week was because I was with you this last week a lot of the time. But go ahead. How was your week?
My week was great. The Chargers are one win into their 16-0 season. They're 1/16 of the way there. We smashed the hated Raiders last night, which was wonderful. I stayed up late.
In their dominion.
Yes, we went up there and we kicked them in the face. And their long snapper got kicked in the head by one of their own players. See, that's the way they are. They kick people in the head.
We are not a sports show, but do your pick. What do you think? I mean, 16-0. I mean, come on. What do you really think they're going to be at the end of the season?
11-5.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. 9-7.
Okay.
I mean, I hope. Well, either one, they're playoff. I think at 9-7 you could be playoff. I mean, this division's getting very difficult. Right. But at 9-7, I think
9-7 might squeaky by in the West, but
it might get you. You know what it'll get you? 9-7. It'll get you wild card.
I'm gonna tell you why we're so much better.
Maybe not. Might not get you
they
wild
added
card.
a wild card team, I think. So I don't know. One of the things that makes the Chargers so much better this year is their defense. Their defense is so much better. So
the new kid, huh? You like the new kid?
Well, yeah, I like the new coach that they have on defense. I like their front seven. Their front seven is really good there.
It's not what'd you call him? You used to call him because he has no D in his name.
Oh no, that was old.
Yeah, I know, but I love that.
We used to call him T.E. Cottrell.
Yeah, T.E.
because there's no D in. Yeah, that was a few. That was a few defensive coordinators ago.
Well, it's not a sports show,
no,
but I wanted to ask you. I really hope that happens for the Chargers. You know, the last 3 years for me, I have completely been deflated. You
haven't been following like you used to.
Oh, I used to be sick.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why.
We used to come over here. We used to come over here and watch, and you'd get mad when they'd lose. And
I couldn't stand it though because I was getting angry, and I was thinking to myself, why am I getting angry over this stupid game that I have no skin in this game?
Exactly. And it's funny.
I didn't even gamble on
him. My boss at work, him and I talk all the time going, you know what? The game's over. The players lose, and they're on the flight home joking and stuff. I'm pissed off for a whole week.
I know.
They played in the game, and they get over the loss a lot faster than I do.
Sure, because they're all of a sudden their pocketbook's a little bigger. But, let's go into our show because it's a very long show today. Very long. Folks, last week we talked about what we would do if we had what three things we would do if we were president.
Power. Not if we were president, because if you're president, you can't get nothing done. Still.
Well, that's not quite true.
If you had the ultimate power, you could just do it.
Do it and this is how you would do it.
Yes.
So we came up with 3 items each. Little boy and myself. Producer Jen, come on live real quick. Okay, she can't. Well, we need to find out who's going to go first.
I'm going to go first.
Oh, that's it?
Yes, I won the coin flip before.
Okay, I didn't know we did a coin flip. Little boy, take it away.
Well, this one's going to be all-encompassing. I had a hard time narrowing it down. So we're going to call this, we're going to revamp Washington.
Okay.
And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to limit the terms for every office to 1.
Wow.
1 term. President is 6 years, Senate 4 years, House 4 years. 1 term.
Wait, the president is how many years?
6 years.
What about 8?
Nope. 6 years, 1 term. Because let me tell you something. Of course, I want Obama to win and be reelected. But what is he doing right now? What is he spending most of his time doing right now?
Reelection. But that's what he spent his four
exactly.
years doing.
And it's not Obama. I'm
no,
not
it's
saying
all
it's
presidents.
Obama. What is he spending the majority of his energy towards right now?
Reelection.
Getting reelected.
Yeah, of course.
If he has one
he
term,
did that from the day he was sworn in.
And that's what they all do. And that's what every single, whether you're in the Senate, whether you're in the House, whether you're local, it doesn't matter. The second you get elected, you're working on reelection, and that's going to take that right out of there.
You think that's where that comment when he was talking to the president of Russia came from?
What comment?
The comment that he said after the election he'll have more power to do what he has to do?
Maybe.
I mean, because he didn't have to worry about it before?
Right. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
Maybe. So the 6 years. So you get elected. You get elected for 6 and that's
you're
it.
6 and you're out.
6 and out.
Senate's 4 and out. House is 4 and out. And I'd be willing to, if you really wanted to fight me on some of those numbers, I'd be willing, because I had kicked around maybe House only 2 or House 3, and of course you would stagger them, so that's not all one big.
Sure. And that's how it is now. That's how it is now.
So that's the first thing. Second thing is, you cannot campaign while you're in office. So that means if
so are you doing all 3 right now, and then I do all 3?
No,
mine are very long.
This is all part of revamping government.
Oh, okay.
You can't campaign. Like if you're a senator, you cannot be campaigning to be, like if your term's coming up, you can't be campaigning for president. You can't go from one to the other.
Okay,
you can't go from Senate to House while you are, like if you're a senator and you cannot be running for president at the same time. You serve your time,
and then once
you're out, then you can.
Okay.
But there is no campaigning. When you are an elected official, you are there to do a job. That's what you're there for, not to try and get better yourself.
Okay.
All people holding public office will contribute to their own retirement.
Okay.
Like everybody else.
Yeah.
401k, we can I'll be willing to talk about the government matching at 10% or something like that, because you're doing a job, but you are contributing. No more of this. You get to do your time and then we pay for you for the rest of your life. That's bull.
Okay.
That's not the way how life is anymore. So you're on board with me so far?
I am not against any of those. Well, I mean, the president, I'd like to see at 8.
Right.
But at 6, it's 2 off. I could agree to that.
That's what I was thinking. That's why I didn't want, because 8's a long time for someone to get in there and then.
Well, 2 4s, 2 4s I could see. 6, they're in for 6, but they can still be impeached.
Of course.
So if something really did go wrong, they could still be kicked out.
Anybody who's an elected official. The only thing about the retirement thing is I think the president, he's set. He's set for life. He gets a pension, whatever. Once you're the president, that's a little bit different.
And you have to have security for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
Because
and all that stuff would stay the same.
Sure. But as far as congressmen and senators, they're on their own.
No, they're on their own. Like
Baby, you had your job.
Yes, you've done your job.
Okay, good.
There would be requirements for them to actually be in session. I have to do my 40 hours a week,
Right.
A lot of their time
job.
right now is spent campaigning.
What if it's hourly? What if they punch a clock?
I don't have a problem with that either.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with that either.
When you're in Senate, you get paid. When you're walking down the street, you ain't getting paid.
Exactly.
When you're with some hooker in some back room, guess what? You ain't getting paid.
Exactly.
Go for it. I like this.
They get the same health care as everybody else.
Welcome
to
the Republican Party, my friend.
That's not true. This is the party of Littleboy is what this is.
Okay, go on. Keep going.
You get the same health care as everybody else. No special, whatever
you have to pay for your own health care.
Exactly. Whatever is the rule for everybody is what you follow.
All right.
This one's going to be a tough one.
Tough sell or tough one on me?
A tough one to implement.
Okay.
You are not allowed to go into any industry that you had any effect on while you were in office for 5 years.
Afterwards?
Yes.
Ooh. You know what? That would stop a lot of corruption.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you are...
That is a tough sell, though.
Yes.
Well, a lot of them are attorneys, though.
Right.
So, but they're in the law field.
Hey, that's the deal.
Well, no, but I mean, if you're... So what do they do for 5 years?
Don't run. If that's going to be an issue for you, don't run. If you want to be able to be an attorney when you get out... I hear the producer talking. I cannot hear what she's saying.
hardly hear it.
I'm sorry, I can't hear what you're saying. If you want to be an attorney when you go out, then maybe you need to double think this, because if you can affect, let's say, the oil industry, okay? Let's say you're an oil executive and then you want to run for office, right? When you get out, you can't have anything to do with the oil industry for 5 years. And I'd be willing to talk about that number. I would be happy to make it 10 years, to be honest with you.
In our profession, Just like the contract we signed for the local radio station, we can't compete.
Right.
So when you're done, you're done.
You can't go in, change laws for the industry you're about to jump into.
No.
That is done. That's a criminal offense.
Good. Criminal offense.
Absolutely. If you're found to have done something like that.
You're going in the house.
Filibusters, gone.
Really?
No more filibusters.
Well, okay. Okay, go ahead. Keep going. But we do get to argue about these.
Of course.
Okay, good.
Of course. If whatever you don't like, you let me know.
Well,
when you register to vote, there is no more political parties.
I like that.
You register as a voter, as a
Are you
citizen.
saying kill political parties or just as a voter?
Well,
you can do that.
Yeah.
You could vote independent.
Right, but I don't want you to have to put a political party because then we don't have to. I don't want it to be an option.
Oh.
I don't want it to be an option. And the reason why is because then you don't have to worry about people trying to purge this and do this and contact this and that. You're a voter. That's what you are. You can vote in any election. You can vote in any primary. It doesn't matter. Everybody gets a chance to vote for everything.
What if people want to tell what their affiliation is?
Nope. Has nothing to do with when you register to vote. That is completely out of it.
Okay.
Okay, this is going to be tough because I want to take the money out of politics, which is.
Are you on live?
Yeah. She's asking how does that work with people who are currently registered, I believe. Well, one of the things that
she's asking some questions here, folks. Sorry, she's unable to come through.
I see what you're saying. Well, you definitely have to run under a political party, but I'm talking about when you register to vote.
Mm-hmm.
There's no political party attached to that at all. You are a voter. That is it.
Well, okay, I like it. Keep going.
We're taking the money out of politics, and this is one of the things. There will be no more political commercials of any kind on television, on radio, nothing. No more.
But what about the economy that it helps?
Listen to this. Well, there's plenty of other ways to help the economy.
But it does help the economy.
Of course, but there are other ways to help the economy. PBS is government funded, so we will have all debates, all of that type of stuff on PBS.
Okay.
Now this one's tough. I thought about this. I want to outline it right.
You know why that would be tough? Because whoever's the sitting president or the sitting party
has control of
PBS,
right.
Which would be unfair to the others.
One
could possibly be unfair to the others.
So we would have to find a way. Now this one I thought about for a long time about political contributions, and I was thinking about trying to limit them and stuff, and I was thinking, what if we completely took it out of there? You couldn't contribute at all to a political party or candidate or anything. And what they did was they took, I don't know, maybe the first $10 from every person who paid taxes went towards a fund to fund the election process. Now that one I could be willing to discuss. I just want to find a good way to take money out of it. People who have more money, people who have less money, that is great, but it should not affect who gets elected. It shouldn't.
Except, okay. Are you done yet?
I think that's all I have so far on my revamping.
That's a heck of a revamp.
System.
I have no problem with any of them. The money, I would have a problem with the $10 on everybody because there are some people who don't want to have anything to do with politics.
I know.
And there's no reason why their money should have anything to do with it.
Well, but they do. But they're there to serve them, and it's to serve the politicians are there to serve them, and that I feel is the best way to get them elected.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about advertisements for a second.
Mm-hmm.
When you're a political candidate and you're advertising, this presidential campaign is supposedly going to be the most expensive campaign ever. Right? Do you know it's still less than what Budweiser pays in a year for advertising?
Is it?
Yeah. So really, I think that's I think people look for things to complain about. Each party looks for something to incite people, get people excited about. And I don't think they spend as much money as if you put it that way. If you say that Budweiser spends more than both candidates are spending in a year, Budweiser advertises every single year.
I'm not complaining about how much money is spent on advertising. I don't like the fact that if we're going to level the playing field, let's get advertising completely out of there. One of the problems with the way campaign finance has been changed, which has completely screwed things up, is the fact that if PMLB Media was sitting on a whole buttload of money and we had a specific agenda, which every company has a specific agenda, as we would as well, as we do as well.
We do, yeah.
We just don't have a way of funding that agenda right now.
If we did, we'd have our own candidate out there.
Let me tell you.
We call him Schmeed.
We could look at the two candidates, and between the two of us, we could say candidate A could kind of help us. Candidate B could help us more than candidate A.
So we're going to put money into candidate B.
But let's not do that. You know what we're going to do? We're going to bypass that whole system. We're going to make our own damn commercial. And that's what they're doing right now.
That's
they
true,
go out,
too.
They start these
too.
PACs, and they make their own dang commercial. They say, why give – I mean, they're still giving money to candidate B or A.
But what they end up doing is just help.
Is they start their own PAC, and they say, this is the message.
But it's their freedom of speech. You saying you're going to take their freedom of speech away? Yeah, we got you. Are you on live, or are you – okay. Uh-huh. Oh, we're not live anymore.
Okay.
Okay, well, keep going, Littleboy. Well, because doesn't that kill them on their freedom of speech? I mean, can't I go and purchase a segment of commercial time and say whatever the heck I want on it? So, well, how could you squash it? I mean, isn't that their First Amendment right? Yes or no? I mean, is it?
Yes. No, it is.
Okay. Well, then, I mean, so that's a tough sell.
Right.
But really, all of the stuff that you said, I don't have any problems with most of it.
When I was going through all this and jotting notes down and stuff, I said,
it's very unliberal-like of you, to be honest with you.
I don't think that he would have a whole lot of problems with that.
I don't have a problem with any of it, really.
There's a few things I think that you might want to tweak a little bit.
I don't have a problem with it, but I can tell you your party would have a huge problem with it.
I'm not
because they have.
I'm concerned with
I'm
what
just telling you. I'm just telling you. And the Republicans have a hard time with it, too, because they have so much money vested in certain people.
I didn't approach this what would be best for Democrats, what would Democrats
You're thinking would be best for everybody.
I thought what would work best.
I like it. I wouldn't complain about it.
This would, and I'm sure there's a few things you would rather tweak, but if you had the choice between what we have now and what I have here,
I would go with it 100%.
I think you would go with what I have on this paper.
Very good. Now,
so that's number one.
That's number one. Holy schmoly.
That might be number three as well.
I think producer Jen's back. Go ahead, Jen. Littleboy, you mean Littleboy.
No,
he's just saying
you're not part of a political party.
You're just not part of a party. At the end, when the ballot comes, you vote, and that's it.
You vote, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. I mean, I actually don't have a problem with that either, because you're going to get, instead of having
I think that this is going to get rid of the two-party system as well.
All right. Now, I don't know what kind of time frame we're in, but can I do my first one now?
You can do your first one now.
All right. Now, I didn't take that same approach.
Okay.
Okay, I didn't take the God approach. What I was taking, because that's the approach of, hey, I could change everything, which is awesome. I think that's great. I thought we were talking about if you're president.
Well, what's great about this is neither one of us discussed how we were going to approach this. We said, let's do it.
I like it.
Okay.
Okay, so my first thing that I would do if I can get it passed, and actually now we're going to say the God law, so it's going to happen no matter what, because would be to cut the government by 25%.
Okay.
Now, here's how I would cut that down, all right? The government spends about $6.3 trillion a year. Pensions amount to $1 trillion. There's nothing you can do about pensions. People have done their time. Yeah, I know, but the people who are there, I mean, you can't cut people who now. I mean, you can start it now, but you can't take it away from people who are still doing it. It would be starting now.
You're right.
So there's nothing you can do about it.
But that spending would be gone because those pensions are paid for.
I love your idea. Okay. I didn't know we were going into the God law, because the God law is I would have done the exact same thing, because I would say cut government by 900%. Anyway.
I think mine's going to cut. This would cut government as well, I believe.
It'd have to, because you would have less time in there. That means they'd have less time to get more staff. But let me finish mine. Shush. Healthcare costs about $1.1 trillion.
Okay.
Okay. That one is in the cut column. Pensions are not in the cut column. Education is 0.9, about $900 billion, so it's 0.9 of a trillion. That's in the cut pile.
You'd cut education?
25%, but let me explain how. You don't know how yet. Okay. Defense is, again, about $900 billion a year. Mm-hmm. That is not in the cut pile.
You know what's funny about that? You equate cutting defense to being anti-military.
That's not what this is about. The reason why I don't want to cut it.
The one of the things that I think that we have a real issue with is like no bid contracts and type of stuff. That stuff can be fixed, and we could trim a lot of money from the budget without sacrificing anything. Definitely. Continue. I'm going to interrupt you every once in a while, but I'll try and let you go.
But defense is defense. The only thing standing between someone coming and blowing your kid's brains out in front of you is our military.
Oh, absolutely.
So
I'm not saying get rid of the military.
They stay where they're at.
I'm saying we could cut we could trim a lot of fat from that budget and not lose anything.
Maybe, but this is not part of my plan. All right, my plan is leave it alone.
Right.
Welfare is $700 billion.
Okay.
All right, that's in a cut pile because there's federal welfare and there's state welfare. Okay. So that's in a cut pile. Okay. This is federal I'm talking about.
Okay.
The rest is employees. So basically, government employees take up the rest. Mm-hmm. Now, if you went to each individual agency, and also I would say do not cut the president. The president stays at his amount of money and his amount of time.
Right.
But Congress, 25%. Senate, 25%. All of the departments, Department of Labor, Department of everything other than security. So Homeland Security leaves alone.
You don't have a pen, do you?
No, I don't. Damn. And anything to do with disaster relief, FEMA, cut 25%. Let me explain to you how you cut 25% at FEMA. Okay. By doing that, you're going to save, because of the things we can't cut, you're going to save $1.1 trillion a year, which is $11 trillion over 10 years, which is 67% of the national debt in 10 years. Now, how do we do this? I'm not saying fire employees.
Okay.
I'm saying you go to each individual department and you say, cut 25%. If I gave you $100 last year, I'm giving you $75 this year. And if that means using two sides of a piece of paper when you write, use two sides of that piece of paper when you write. If that means that you're going to get new vehicles every 3 years instead of every 2 years, that's what it is. And if that means that you're not going to hire extra people to help with paperwork, but you're going to have other people work longer, that's what you do.
You know, it's funny that that's the approach that you take, because at my work, that's the approach they take as well. When the economy is gone down, and the industry I'm in has gone down, and when they have their budget meetings, that is one of the things that my boss was told. The owner or the head boss has never said you need to cut this many employees. Excuse me. You need to cut this many employees, and you need to cut this many employees. He has said, this is what we need to do. Your budget is this. We need to trim it down to this. Find a way to
make it work.
Make it work. And then he comes. We all meet in my department. We discuss. We can do this. We can do that. We can do this. Ultimately, he doesn't want to let people go. Number one, because you just don't want to let somebody go. You don't want to do that. And number two, you need, the employees that you have. It's tough to be able to produce what you produce with less people. The
government is a little overinflated with employees, but I'm not saying cut them. I'm just saying 25%. I'm not
necessarily on board with your idea here, but that approach I like. Don't say you have to let go of this many people. Say, this is what your budget. Find a way to make it work.
Find a way to make it work. Okay. And here's how education does that. Okay. Now, and I'm going to go through FEMA too, how FEMA does that too.
Okay.
The federal Department of Education gives X amount of dollars to every individual state. Now, the state has their own Department of Education and their Board of Education and their state superintendent of education, which is 3 different departments.
Right.
The state collects every penny of your property tax towards education, and they get money from the federal government. No. We spend more per student in this country than any other country on earth, yet our students are not even in the top 50.
Yeah, I've heard that argument a lot, and the argument is we're not spending our money wisely.
Yes, and so do you think?
Yeah, that's kind of my same argument with the military too. It's kind of funny,
If you spent, but the difference is, I am not willing to risk American lives.
I'm not saying risk one American.
I know, but I'm not willing to do it. I wouldn't put anybody in harm's way.
I'm not saying approach the military and say cut 25%, figure out a way to do it. That's not what I'm saying.
No, and I wouldn't do that, because you know what the military do? Well, let's see. Let's cut the Army would say cut off the Navy, and the Navy would say cut down the Marines, and the Marines would say cut down the Air Force.
What I'm saying is we need to do a little bit better job of making sure the money that we're spending wisely.
Right. So there is no way that the Department of Education would have to get rid of anybody, the federal department would have to get rid of anybody if they found a way to save 25%. And they could. And this might mean carpooling. This might mean not spending as much money on taking your girlfriend, your secretaries out to lunch on the bill, because you're going to lose that. This might turn around and say, because there is that.
My worry when you make that approach is when you leave the decision of where to cut the money to the people who are driving the nice cars and taking the secretaries out to lunch. They're not going to cut that part of it. They're going to cut it from lower down.
But that's the problem. That's the problem that we're going to run into.
That's my worry with your plan.
And this has to happen. This 25%. No, because I
Right.
think that there is places like which we haven't got into yet, the Postmaster General, who they really can cut employees. They have people, and we've talked about this before, that literally sit around in a job pool waiting for something to do because they don't have the same mail. So you can't say, don't cut employees first. What you have to say is, this is your budget, make it work.
Okay.
Try to keep your employees if you can. But even if they did fire a bunch of people, which is terrible for the fact that people lose their job, but they're not crying over your work, getting slower. They're not crying over the fact that you might lose your job. And so you can't turn around and say to your boss, hey, give more money to the government, and them say to your boss, give more money to us because we need to keep our people, when he could turn around and say, what about my people?
Okay.
So and the other thing is, don't forget, if these people did go on unemployment, it would save the government 30% because they only get 2/3 of their salary. So, and it's terrible, but I've lived with less. I have cut back well more than 25% of my income. You know what I mean? And I've lived on it. Okay. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. Okay, so talking points. FEMA. This is the last one that we're going to talk about on this one.
Okay.
When did it become the federal government's responsibility when they give money to a state, and this is case in point I'm going to tell you about Katrina. They gave money to Louisiana, right? They told Louisiana, you fix the dikes down, the levees. You fix them. Here's the money to do it.
Which they thought they had, I guess.
Yeah, right. Here's your money. Go fix it. Yet they use the money for some other program, and then all of a sudden, Katrina comes through, wipes those out, people lose their homes, and the government bails them out again. Well, why is a guy in Iowa...
The federal government...
I understand this. Why is a guy in Iowa paying for the state to screw them twice? Why is the state of California, which we're in, getting federal money from somebody who lives in New Jersey... because we have wildfires. That has absolutely nothing to do with that guy.
Part of the deal.
I understand.
Part of the deal.
But every year, as part of the disaster preparedness package, the federal government gives so much money to every state. They already give it to them.
Okay.
And then how does the state come back and say we need more? Well, this is how it works. In this cutting of the 25%.
Okay.
FEMA gives the money to the states with interest, and they want the money paid back. The states have to start taking more responsibility. If states want states' rights, which I am very for, I'm a statesman, I think states should have states' rights, they need to take care of themselves. Because they turn around, the people who live in that state pay for their state. I don't want to pay for someone who lives in Florida when a hurricane hits. Just like that person in Florida does not want to pay when the big wildfire came through here in 2008 for my roof that got damaged. There's no reason that they should. The same reason that I shouldn't pay for them.
Okay, well, we see differently on that.
But that's how you save the 25% there.
Okay.
And the way that works is the states have to take care of themselves. Now, states are having problems with money too.
Right.
But this 25% can work in the states too.
Okay.
All right, go ahead. What's your number 2? Well, actually, let's talk about it. What did you think of that?
I don't think that that's where the issue is.
Well, it's my first of 3.
I know.
But what do you think of it?
I don't like it.
Well, you don't like it. Why? Give me the first thing you don't like.
I just think going and cutting the government is not the way to go.
But why is the government there? Is the government there solely to provide a service to you, or is the government there to govern the people, to keep the people going in the right direction?
I'll tell you what. I actually I agree with cutting the government, but I agree with cutting the government my way, and I think my way would cut the government more than 25%, to be honest with you.
Well, you're only talking to politicians, though. You didn't actually.
You know how much money is wasted.
I understand, but you didn't. But you're still allowing.
Wasted.
You're still allowing for bureaucracy there. You're still allowing. What you're saying is elected people have to go, right. But you're not saying anything about the people they appoint.
I'm going to tell you, first of all, this thing. If this was going to start in 2013, January 1st, 2013. If this was implemented 100%, there was no slowly getting into it, and it was running like clockwork, it'd probably still take 5 years for things to clean up at least.
I don't see where that would save the debt.
I think it would, because I think that a lot of money that government and they spend is money that's wasted trying to make sure that people are happy with them, make sure that they're getting reelected.
But that still doesn't have to do with the money that we spend as a nation. It is.
I think that there's a lot of government spending that's wasted. We always talk about
$6.3 trillion.
We always talk about when they try to release the budget, try to trim all the pork. Pork was a big word that was being used.
Huge. It still is.
I think it would get rid of a lot of that.
How?
Because they're not worried about getting reelected anymore.
But how would that save us money with states taking money from the federal government, not paying it back?
I don't think that's what the issue is. I think that would save the federal budget.
But
which is
don't you
what
think
the
our
issue
employees
is.
don't you think the federal government's a little bit inflated with employees?
Sure.
Because there's 30 million federal employees.
I don't know how many employees
There's
there
30
are.
million. And out of 30 million, that means there's one employee for every 10 people. Come on. Why is there one federal employee for every 10 people? Come on.
There's some fat that could be trimmed, I will say that.
Jeez. How many supervisors do you have at work per people? Like, I mean, it's hard to explain, but
it's real tough the way my work goes, because we have departments within departments. We have one big manager, and then
how many people does he manage? Because let's say the federal government's a big guy, 40, but the federal government has one for 10.
He's like the we'll say we're a state. Our department is one of the states, so he's the governor of the state. And then he has his lieutenant governor, and then we each have mayors in each of our departments.
But I'm talking federal.
Yeah.
See, I'm not talking
federal government is outside of us. Federal government's the one that told him we got to trim the budget.
Well, the thing is, I mean, if you think about it, if there's one for every 10, that means
that's a lot.
Well, what does one person make? I mean, say the guy makes $5,000 a year, which we all know he doesn't.
Right.
Those 10 have to come up with that $5,000.
No, I know what you're saying.
It's kind of ridiculous.
Yes, I understand what you're saying.
So, but he actually probably makes closer to 50.
Yeah.
Probably
more than that too.
Well, maybe, but I'm just saying. So those 10 are coming up with that 50, which to me it just seems a little high. I think we have too many employees, and that's what's interesting is there's other countries that tell us that constantly, that your federal government is just way too big.
We've let it get out of control. We've let our whole government has gotten
you do
out
number
of control.
2.
Number 2 is going to be a little bit shorter. We've argued about this before. I go with a progressive tax system.
Okay.
The actual numbers, I was going to come up with exact numbers, but I don't have a perfect answer. So my basic philosophy would be every single person pays taxes.
Okay, that's good.
Whether you made $1 or whether you made $1 billion, you pay taxes. The person who paid $1 pays a smaller percentage.
That's where we differ.
I know, and we've talked about this before. We've argued, and the number, the more you make, the higher percentage you make. One thing.
Well, that's a good. The producer has a good question.
Okay,
she's asking at what
starting
age.
At what age? That's interesting. I didn't think about that. The only thing I would say is, if you receive a paycheck, you pay taxes, or if I guess if you receive a paycheck, you pay taxes. I mean, that's bottom line. Whatever age you can start working.
I have zero problem with that.
I know the progressive thing you don't like. One of the things that I didn't say in the past that I feel strongly, let's say the highest, whatever we figure the cutoff is, this to this to this to this, let's just take a section that's paying 21%, okay? Whatever that tier is, 21%. Your write-offs can only get you down to, say, 18%. There's a certain threshold you cannot go below.
So everything. So it
you're
could be.
You're going to pay 21%. And you can write off down to 18, but there's a certain number you cannot go below.
Okay.
You can't be
I can see that.
in the upper tax bracket and end up paying 9%.
But that 18%, could that 18% be the same for the person making the $1? Or do you want them to be less than 18%?
Well, I want them to be less than 18%. What I would say is, let's say that person making $1 to me would pay 0.5% on their $1. And they can't get it down to lower than 0.25% or whatever.
Wow.
There's whatever the numbers. The 0.5% I just threw out there, just as a number. Maybe it could be 5%, whatever.
Even
Everybody
5,
pays
that's
taxes.
low. It's just
I know.
low.
It would start low because if you're making only $10,000 a year and you have a family of 4, you're having a tough time. You are struggling. And people who are making $10,000 with a family of 4, I'm sure there's people out there that are only making that much, are struggling. They're saying, I can't afford to pay taxes. Well, you are receiving benefits from the government. You need to contribute. Even if it's just a small amount, everybody needs to contribute. You cannot get a refund for more than you paid. I think that I'm not in that situation, but I've heard where people pay no taxes and they still get a refund.
Back. Yeah.
As much as you count on that, I understand you count on that. There are other services that you can get from the government. I mean, there's food stamps, there's welfare, there's all of that stuff. But
it's all been cut 25%
but you should
by
not
me.
By you, but I've already taken over. You cannot receive more money back. I'm talking about on income tax. Now, there's other things
that is so non-liberal of you, which I can't believe. But at the same time, can I now do my little bit of that?
Sure.
Because we're on your second.
I know we are.
I don't like the progressive side for the fact that I don't believe you should ever get punished for making money. But
we've talked about that.
I do think everybody should pay taxes. You're right. Why are rich people rich?
There are many, many reasons why rich people are rich.
Why are rich people rich in general? We're doing general.
Because they were raised rich, because they inherit.
No, not everybody. Hey, let me tell you something.
I'm not saying everybody.
Let me tell you something.
You're trying to generalize it, so I can generalize it too. There's not one specific answer.
Okay.
Many reasons why rich people
are rich because they know how to make money. They know how to hold on to their money. What happens when you get a lot?
Start with a lot of money. I would be willing to bet right now that most people.
I know someone very, very personally,
and I'm not
who was
saying
born with $0.
I'm not saying all. I will say more than 50% of people who are considered rich started rich.
Okay. Now, that means somebody in their family knew how to make money somewhere, some way, right. And they know how to hold on to that money. Okay. And that's passed down from generation to generation. I'll let you have that. That's fine. Now, what happens when you start ticking off rich people? Well, let me explain what happens when you start ticking off rich people. The government has nothing on the wealthy. The wealthy control everything. And there's nothing you can do about it, and there's nothing I can do about it because they own everything.
When they make me in charge of everything.
Okay, which is really interesting because when rich people get upset, all of a sudden gas starts to get very expensive. Gas gets $5, $6, $8 a gallon because rich people are now upset.
Is that why that happens?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what happens there.
Okay.
When rich people get upset, all of a sudden jobs start to dry up. Why? Because the rich people are rich. They can shut places down and they can wait out people like you and I.
That's not the way most of them think, and that's not the way most of it works.
Guess what? Why do you think the economy drops? Why do you think the stock market is played so? Why do you think you and I cannot buy IPOs? You could not buy an IPO. Do you know why you cannot buy an IPO?
Idea. I don't.
Because you don't have any money. If you were rich,
I can't. There's a lot of stuff I can't buy because I don't have any money.
If you were rich, you would be able to buy an IPO of blue chips.
Okay.
You do not have that ability because you are not rich.
Okay.
So rich people have complete control of markets.
Okay.
When you upset rich people, guess what they do to the markets?
We already have somewhat of a progressive tax system anyways. They're not upset about that. Let me tell you, when jobs are created by people spending money. That's what jobs are created.
You're right. That's what you think.
Yep.
Well, we're going to talk about that on my number 2.
Okay. Go for your number 2.
My number 2 is a tariff on any goods from China. Okay, let me explain this to you. What do you always tell me the reason why we still use gasoline in cars?
I don't know. What do I always tell you?
Why do you say that we use got and we don't really go?
Because it's not expensive enough.
Exactly. And the reason why we import from China $399 billion worth of goods is because they're cheap.
Because they're cheap.
They're very cheap.
Right.
We export to China $103 billion worth of goods, which are hit with a tariff because the U.S. does not have favorable nation with China of 22%. Chinese goods come here under most favored nation, which means they get 0 tariff. Now, it is everyone's responsibility, the guy making $10,000 and the guy making $10 million for our country. Mm-hmm. Everybody's responsible for it, just like you say on taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Putting a 10% tariff, 10%, for 1 year would bring $30 billion into the U.S. economy just in the fact of items from China costing 10% more.
If they were, you're taking into account the fact that doing that wouldn't slow down goods coming in.
We want that to happen.
Right. No, I'm just saying
because what happens when an item for China is no longer cheaper than making it here? You know, we always complain, or you complain a lot about government or about business taking jobs overseas.
Right.
And why do they do that? Because it's cheaper. But if we make it not cheaper,
exactly.
Then
I'm on board. I think I'm on board with you here.
Now, here's what I'm saying: 1 year, 10% tariff, and then it's revisited. At the end of that year.
Okay.
And it's not revisited to get rid of. Mm-hmm. It's to see if we can increase it to 20%.
Sure.
Now, it will hurt everybody.
Of course it will.
A lot of people cannot afford tools from Home Depot. They go to Harbor Freight. Ding, ding, you both just got a free plug. Now, what happens is that wrench that cost $2 now costs $2.20, and maybe Home Depot's wrench for $2.50. Gosh, I'm going to pay it anyway. I'll buy a U.S. wrench.
Exactly.
Now, I like that. I'm very upset about this 22%. Now, I didn't know that was true. I got it from the New York Times today, because who's complaining the most right now is the fact that U.S. cars are very hard to sell in China because they have a 22% tariff.
Right.
And you put a 22% tariff on something like a Cadillac, holy schmoly. You know what I mean? You got a lot of money out there.
Right.
10% goes for 1 year. That's it. That was my number 2.
I actually like that. I like that. And now, if you remember, back when we used to hang out before we did the show, we used to actually hang out a lot more just as friends. We don't seem like we have as much time to do that. We were on a road trip, and I was telling you, why don't they just charge 10% more if it wasn't made in the United States as a tax?
Straight across, tariffs.
Remember, we talked. You said tariff. I was actually saying it was right at the register. This here is $200. You're going to pay your 8% sales tax, and you're paying 10% because it was not made here in the United States.
That's a tariff.
Yes. And I was just saying, you're saying take it at the beginning, and I'm saying take it when it's purchased. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Just take it.
I agree. I think that that's going to force more people, because everybody says they're Buy American. Everybody says,
but they don't
USA,
do it.
USA.
But they don't do it.
No, and I don't, and you don't either.
No, there's stuff that I bought out.
My television is not American.
Your phone isn't. My phone isn't. My computers aren't.
Is there an American company that makes televisions?
Or RCA used to, but I don't know if they still do.
Right.
I really don't.
JVC? I don't know.
I don't know. I really don't know.
I don't know either, but we don't, because it's cheaper. It's cheaper, and the bottom line is it's tough to. You feel like you can't be. Everybody has to be together, and the only way to make it everybody together is to create a law to do it. That's the only way.
Okay, I'm good. Then you're good with that. I'm good with that.
So it's funny. My number 1 you pretty much agree with. Your number 2 I pretty much agree with.
Producer, what time frame are we at? Oh boy, we're in 30 minutes.
You want to stop at 2?
No.
Why don't you do your number 3?
Okay. You're not gonna like this number 3. This one you're not gonna like. We're at 40 minutes. Okay. Now, the Obamacare. All right. Some parts of Obamacare need to stay. What needs to stay is the pre-existing conditions. It needs to stay in there because there is people who have them, and they need to be able to get insurance. What's happening to...
So you don't want to rip it out. You just want to
I want to do some tweaking to it.
Okay. You know what's funny is when he first was talking about this at the State of the Union address, at his last State of the Union address, he made a statement that said, if you want to sit down and talk about it, we can talk about it, but I'm not going to discuss throwing it out. I'm not going to discuss that, which is what Mitt Romney said he's going to do day 1, by the way.
No,
throw it out. That's what he said
in
day
today's
1.
thing, I read what he said today.
Yeah.
There's parts of it that need to stay.
Okay.
And I think he is talking about one of the things he needs to throw out, everybody needs to throw out, is that the mandate, the tax. It has to go.
I don't think so.
Now, here's why it has to go.
The same tax that he had when he had his health care in his state.
Yeah, well, and just like he saw, the mandate is a mandate. People don't have money. They don't have money. Now, here's where I am with this. Every year, my salary since 2008 has gone down. Our amount of income has dropped. Mm-hmm. And things, my wife and I call it floating to the top. There's stuff that we cut out. We cut out the nice car. We cut out the boats. We cut out vacation homes. And things as they floated to the top, we started cutting. The problem is we're starting to run out of stuff floating to the top. We were discussing last week cutting our healthcare down. We were discussing cutting it from full healthcare to emergency healthcare, meaning if something catastrophic happens, we have coverage, but going day to day to the doctor is just not covered. So if you have a cold and it doesn't progress, you're not going to go to the doctor, or you're going to spend $100 because we can drop our deductible to that way. The reason why is because underneath that is our house, which I need to keep. I have kids, and underneath that is auto insurance. And, and underneath that...
Which is a mandate.
It's a mandate. See, I have no choice but to keep it, which I would anyway because I have to keep my cars. And underneath that is food. There's really not a whole bunch left as we're going down, as things are bubbling up. But with this mandate, I have no choice but to keep health insurance. Now, I'm not the healthiest guy in the world. So for me, I'm trying to keep on to at least emergency. But I cannot be the only person in this country that is having the same bubbling up to cut until they're almost cut to the bone. With the mandate, I do not, and I've already checked into this, qualify for free healthcare. I don't. I make too much money, but yet I don't make enough money to pay for my healthcare. So what I'm trying to say to you is, where is the fairness to someone who I believe I classify myself a middle class, who cannot afford to pay it anymore, but is forced to?
Well,
because it's hitting home now.
As close as we are, I'm not privy to your exact financial situation. So it's hard for me to comment exactly. The first thing I'll say is the same thing that I had said originally, was there is absolutely no system that is going to... How many people are in the United States?
300 million.
300 million. There's no system that's going to work for 300 million
For every
people.
10 of them, there's a government employee.
There's a government employee for every 10 of them, according to your numbers. I'm not disputing them. I'm just saying. There's no system that's going to work for 300 million people. It's just not going to happen. Not going to happen. There are going to be people that it just does not work out well for, and maybe you are one of those. However, there are cuts that can be made that are not fun, but there are cuts. There's always more stuff to cream to the top. You don't have to have cable television or satellite TV.
I'm stuck in a contract.
You don't have to have your cell phone. There are other things that can be cut, and to that I say, is it fair for somebody, and I'm not trying to throw you under the bus personally, is it fair for somebody to not pay for their health care but still pay for those things which are not necessities, although the way our lives have become, we feel they're necessities, and if you took your phone and threw it in the river right now, you'd be lost for a little while, but you'd figure it out eventually, I assume. If you got rid of your satellite TV, you'd be lost for a little while, but you'd figure it out. But is it fair for somebody to still pay for all of those things, not pay for their health care, have a heart attack or fall off the wall and break your arm, go to the emergency room, and let somebody else pay for it anyways?
Well, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is this is hitting me at home now.
Right.
Because healthcare is bubbling up. I mean, to where we're cutting down, it is bubbling up. What about when the phones are gone? Because they are going away. You don't know. You're not privy to this.
No, I'm not. That's what I said.
And
I'm not privy
what
to
is happening once the contracts are up on the
Right.
on the satellites and money still
Right.
isn't there?
Well,
It will come to a point at the way it's happening now.
Right.
It will come to a point where it's food or healthcare, and that is the biggest problem. Because a mandate is a mandate is a mandate. I mean, I can get rid of my auto insurance because I can get rid of my cars.
I have to assume
it can happen.
I'm not saying it can't happen. If it gets to the point where you have gotten rid of everything and all that's left to choose from is food or health care, then you will be in the financial situation where you get free health care if it really got to that point.
No.
That's what I'm assuming.
My mortgage alone, if I make my mortgage every year, of the cost it is per month, does not qualify us for the health care.
Well, I mean, I'm...
See, the problem is I'm not just saying, yeah. Are you on? Yeah, she's not on. Okay. The reason why I'm saying that is it's about $12,000. About $12,000 to get the free care. My mortgage payment is $2,000 a month. So I would be out of the house.
Right.
So what I'm saying is the cars would be gone because the insurance would be gone. The house would be gone. And still going down, I still do not qualify for that.
Well,
and I think there's a problem there.
Well,
the problem is you're telling the middle class, and I, like I said, classify myself as middle class because that's where the law reads as it is. And so the only part I would change of this whole law is a mandate. And here's why. I don't believe that you can get rid of your car and then you don't have to pay that insurance anymore. But there is nothing you can do to get away from the healthcare law.
See, the way the healthcare, first of all, the healthcare, I like that the healthcare was passed because I think that we're a better country when everybody is insured. One of the very, very important parts of the healthcare law was the previous conditions part of it.
What are you going to do if this hits you?
My third thing is also healthcare. I would scrap I'm big on scrapping and starting over. I would go to single payer. There is so much money that is spent and wasted by insurance companies, by all these different health plans. We would go single payer. It would just come out of your taxes. You know, a percentage of it would come out of your taxes. We would have one system for everybody, and I think that would be the way to go.
Well, a question on that. In California,
I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, so I have no idea
fine.
what it would cost.
In California, when the workers' comp got very high, they came out with a thing called state fund. Mm-hmm. It was a government-ran workers' comp system. Now I know you weren't in.
You know, the funny thing is, if you went to single payer, the workers we wouldn't have this whole issue with.
Of course, you'd have workers' comp.
You wouldn't have the medical insurance that companies would have to carry and all that type of stuff. You wouldn't have any of that anymore. We'd have one big
companies can be getting
system.
People sick. The reason why we have workers' comp is because it keeps companies responsible for what they do.
Right.
That's exactly why we have it. It keeps them on the hook. They can't tell their employees to go out and play with poison all day long and not have repercussions because of that.
I think the money that could be saved.
Let me just throw this out because I know we're getting long in the tooth here. When State Fund did that, it was supposed to be cheaper. State Fund is twice free market because here's the difference. In free market, you have competition. When you don't have competition, you have the $500 toilet. And that's a problem.
Which is funny because we're making the exact opposite argument that we were just making earlier on military, because there's a lot of no-compete contracts and stuff like that.
But the military we can't change. We cannot change that. We cannot change the military. I'm not willing to risk.
Right.
That's why.
I didn't say risk one thing.
This is a good show. What I would like to do is maybe in the future, we don't have to do it next week because we do have some debates coming up that I want to watch.
Yeah.
I think we should do the 3 things that the U.S., if you were in, the God law, about foreign policy. I mean, I need a little foreign policy with China.
The U.S. should do policy-wise. Well, you kind of did one already with the tariff thing.
Yeah, but I mean, I think maybe not 3. Maybe we just do 2.
We'll do 2.
Okay?
I like that.
Oh, Littleboy was a good show.
I had fun.
It was actually a good show. I was kind of expecting to get a little more out of you, but I think my plans would work. I really do think they'd work. They would hurt.
I think mine would work better. I think most people out there will think mine will work better.
Oh, I think yours will work great, but I don't see how it will work. All right, well, you can always get me at Phatman at phatmanlittleboy.com or on Twitter at producerphatman.
You can email me at littleboy or you can email me littleboy at phatmanlittleboy.com. Please email me if you like what I said or you have any problems with what I said.
Or you hate what he said.
Or you hate what I said. Email me. And you can follow me on Twitter at lbhost.
And that's it?
Yeah, if you're we do stream every Tuesday night at 6 o'clock on
we start a little early.
Yeah, the stream starts early, but the recording starts at 6 o'clock. So you can watch us live. Most of you watch us through the website, or you're watching us on YouTube or Vimeo or anything like that. But if you're interested in watching us live, we're live every Tuesday night, so you can watch us live. You can call in.
We're actually on Blip TV now. That's our big one.
Oh, okay, Blip TV. You can tweet directly. If you tweet during the show, I will respond to it like we usually do.
Yep. All right, Littleboy, good show.
Yeah, I had a good time.
And we'll see you real soon.
Take care.